And good morning. Welcome, everybody. This is episode 40, or it could be evening, really, wherever you're at. I don't know what time it is in your area, but hey, thanks so much for tuning in. This is episode 48. This is LoreForged, the podcast for Ashes of Creation, and we are your hosts. My name's Jibbs, and before I introduce my compatriot for the night, singular, because Sonny is out. He is, hang on, Kash is here. Kash, welcome in, my friend.
Oh, man. I was waiting for it, dude. I was going to come at you hard for that one. You know what? Sonny's not here, and you still introduce him first. I don't know, because there's a count going on in our Discord. They actually have a count of how many times that you introduce Sonny before you introduce me.
They really do. Yeah. Like, they have a full-on spreadsheet. I'm actually really impressed with our guild, like the people in our community, because they're doing spreadsheets for stuff for the guild too. Did you see that with the archetypes? And they're like figuring out the details of Excel. And I'm sitting back just smiling like, I love this.
Yeah, it's funny because I put a comment in just about how excited we've been to see all of the activity that's going on with our guildmates in there. It is, I mean, you guys, we just opened applications for our guild. A week ago? Yeah. And almost not even a week ago. And it is absolute beehive of activity in there right now. And it's really cool. And like, you're right. They're doing a bunch of things like the spreadsheets, which I actually should get with some of you folks to learn the finer art of spreadsheets. Seriously. Because I suck at Excel. Like it's a thing, but it's not just all of this insane information that they're gathering for the guild, but it is the presentation value of how each of those tabs look. And like, you open it up and there's pictures in there and graphs and like all kinds of stuff that I feel like I'm going to need a statistics class just to understand.
We need to get with those guys everyone who's working on that. Just sit in and let them fill us in, because I want to learn that too. I haven't touched that in a really long time.
Yeah, the beauty of this whole thing is that people are very interested in what we're doing. They're very interested in making the Black Talon Trading Company the best it can possibly be.
Yeah,
and those efforts are definitely not going to notice. Like, for sure watching it, and I am so impressed with the level of skill that we have in our compatriots.
Oh,
it's
right,
so cool.
Oh yeah. Man. Absolutely. And welcome in, everybody. Thanks so much for tuning in. And we have a jam-packed show. It's actually a special episode. We haven't done one of these in 11 weeks. I'm sorry. 11 weeks. And that is live at happy hour. This is the third one we've done. And now, if this is your first time here for this specifically, so here's what we do. For everyone who's here at LoreForged Live, because we're doing this live on Twitch, but for everyone who's listening, this is where we go to our community and we're like, hey, we want to talk community topics. What questions do you have for us? And I tell you what, this time we opened it up to our guild and they did not disappoint. I was at hospitals and meetings and I was just sitting there talking, and I looked down at my phone and I'm like, bloop, 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 like just message after message. I'm just like, I love these people.
They must have a repository of questions that they all go to, because we never have a lack of questions. Folks are always like putting questions in there. And
right.
I took a couple days off this week, which has been glorious, by the way, just for getting stuff done and feeling like a human. It's been really good. So I had some time to go through, and I was actually trying to take a little stress off of Jibbs, because you had a very busy week and you normally put the show together. So I was like, yeah, man, I'll take this. So I will preface it by saying this, like, there were so many questions that we won't be able to get to every single question, but we picked some of the ones that we think are going to spur some really good conversation, and we'll see how far we get before our time sunsets this evening.
Yeah. Well, before we jump in, we got a couple things. Number one, we opened up guild recruitment. That is officially a thing, is it not?
It is definitely a thing. We had a very good experience with our guild bot in Discord. It worked very well, and we did a bunch of applications. We did not fill up. which I think a lot of people thought we were going to fill up, and we kind of knew we weren't going to.
Yep.
But yeah, we didn't fill all of our slots, and we don't anticipate doing so for quite a while. So if you're not SOL, if you're still interested in joining our guild, but our guild is definitely exclusive to our Discord members. You have to be in our Discord in order to make that bot work. So the guild applications, I think we're very impressed with, because people put a lot of effort into the guild applications, and that's exactly what we were looking for, is just effort. And it was so really, really cool to read through people's experiences with MMOs. And like, one of my favorite questions was like, how do you handle conflict in a guild? And people were really candid about how they would do it. Like, we had answers everywhere from, if I have conflict, then I'm going to, maybe approach the person, and then we're going to have a conversation. I'm going to listen. And they had like this whole process, and other people were like, we have conflict, I dip.
Yeah. That's my
I'm out. I just go to another channel.
Yeah, they're like, they're just like, I'm out for a while, I'll be back.
Perfectly viable. It's perfectly viable to just be a soldier. That's totally fine. If you don't want to handle the stuff, we'll handle it.
Yeah.
So anyway, yeah, really good experience we had over the last week with applications. So thank you all.
Yeah. And by the way, special shout out to everyone who's tuning in. Make sure you go over to Stakeno's YouTube channel, because his rap album, The King's Respair, is now out. And I think we're actually on track. Is it 7? It's either 7 or 10.
We're on track 7.
But
yeah, there's a little snippet in there of some voices that you might notice. But if you haven't checked this out, even if rap isn't your thing, please go listen to this, because he tells a story. And there's a very specific way that he tells a story with a voice that you will all know and love. And I really have to hand this, just hats off to him. Once again, hats off to him. And I really just got to hand it to him. He did an amazing job putting this thing together, and it tells a really cool story. So if you like Ashes, you're going to like this, regardless of what you think of rap or whatever. He just does such a great job.
Yeah. So yeah, he crushed it. Yeah, for sure. All right. So live at happy hour. Now, this is kind of like our version of a dev discussion. Again, like, they submit questions to us and we answer. So first up, Kash, you want to take the first one?
Yeah, I'm going to take the first one, and then I'm going to kind of go into a little bit of an explanation of this one too, just to refresh everybody's memory about what this system is. So the first question comes to us from our good buddy Rogue, and he says, something that hasn't really been a main focus or topic of discussion is the Monster Coin, or the Monster Coin events, or the Monster Coin system. And he has a few questions about it. But before we get into that, Jibbs, I think it's a good idea for us to detail what the monster system is. And then we'll kind of get into the questions here. So basically what the Monster Coin system is certain things in the world will trigger a Monster Coin event. And during that event, there'll be something that comes across your screen for people who are geographically in the area. And what it does is it enables players who have a Monster Coin. Monster Coin is something that you can get in the game via either rare drops or cosmetic store. And no, we're not going to get into the cosmetic store debate.
Let's go.
But the Monster Coins, the Monster Coin things that you can have, the trinkets that you can have in your inventory are non-tradable. They're exclusive to you as a character and how you acquire them. But you can use one of those, you can redeem one of those to turn into a monster of some sort, and you'll have certain objectives as a monster to attack things. So they get triggered in different ways. These events get triggered in different ways. Activity that takes place in the world, nodes advancing, defeating certain bosses, and the one that I thought was very, very interesting is constructing a certain type of building within a node. So that could mean that, say you construct I don't know, some type of a blacksmith or something like that, some kind of a building, some kind of a crafting building. Well, if it's part of the predicate for this internal system, it will spawn this monster coin event. And the goal in that monster coin event is for players to kind of join a horde. They will join a horde of like zombies, everything from like zombies to dragons. So you can picture like hordes of goblins, goblin bosses, and they will go in and try to attack certain objectives. Well, players will also have to come in and defend their node, defend those objectives. Otherwise, you can lose them. You know, it's now the one thing about the monster coin system is it doesn't de-level a node. It cannot do that. It's more for things that players have done to just try and take it back a notch. So it's a little bit of like a check and balance system, to where if a node is progressing too quickly or is getting too powerful, these events you'll probably start hitting those predicates more often for more of these events to just kind of chunk down that progress a little bit. So it's kind of a fail-safe, but they're doing it in a kind of a fun way. So Jibbs, I'll throw this first question at you. And the first question from Rogue in regards to the monster coin system is, how often would you like to see it?
That's a good question, because it has to be like enough that it's viable, but not too much that it's like, there's another one, or, oh, look, another one, and it's just boring, right? So I don't have an answer like for a definite, because I think this is one of those things where I really want to test it. Like, is it too often to have it once every 2 to 3 weeks? Is that too much? Is that not enough? Like, does it need to like really ramp up to where it's, you know, like you're fighting those dragons kind of thing? Or is it like what does the players want? Like, what do they feel like that they would like to see? I'm thinking maybe, I'll just give a number. Maybe once every 2 to 3 weeks.
Okay. The one that I put up there was, I think, once a week. Like once a week, it would be cool. But I think there's so many factors that go into it. And one of those factors is the speed of which a node is progressing. Because that is going to be, say you have Asmongold's guild coming there. And I know we use this poor guy's guild all the time as fodder. And it's only because of his amazing, incredible
massive
success.
Following.
So it's really like a veiled compliment for Asmongold, just because he's done so well over the years. But say you have an Asmongold sized guild come in and they are just progressing that node at an insane rate, or maybe even several nodes around one node. They're just progressing them super fast. When that happens at a rapid rate of speed, it's definitely going to affect everything else if you're not a citizen of said nodes. So I could see these checks and balances systems like the monster coin events happening much, much more regularly when that rapid expansion of a node is taking place. Whereas if you have a single guild in a regular node, it's not like some geographic location that everybody on the server wants, like a coastal node or a mountain node. It's just a regular old node. And you have this guild of, 50 folks who are doing their best to progress it, but it's happening at a much slower pace. Then I could see maybe every 2 to 3 weeks when that guild hits certain milestones or there's certain predicates that are built within the system are reached, then yeah, that could be a thing. But when you have a guild of, freaking 1,000 people in several different guilds, and they're all citizens of said node or of one node, and it's progressing quickly, then you're going to need those checks and balances in place maybe a little bit more frequently than you would with a slower guild. Yeah,
when you have when you have those checks and balances in there that are based off of the way or the speed at which something is leveling, there's a lot of work going into that, right? So when I can imagine that when something like a monster event really pops off, after you've invested a lot, like it's like, oh no, you know, I can imagine it's that feeling of almost like despair, like, oh, we need to handle this.
Yeah,
because
this is a problem.
Yeah, you know, people are going to take ownership of these nodes. I mean, it's going to become truly a part of them. Their gameplay loop is really investing into that node at the beginning. That's something that, you know, we haven't talked enough about on the show is, you know, that those first few months or, you know, those first few weeks specifically, you're really going to be investing a lot of your time. You know, if you're not and you're out, you know, like exploring, that's another thing entirely, you know, but, you know, like everyone's really going to be investing themselves in these nodes. So there's going to be a lot of weight. There's going to be a lot of weight, I think, into this.
Yeah, there is. And that actually brings up another thing. We're working on our guild charter right now. And part of that guild charter, this is a big reveal right here, is that when the game launches for our guildmates, you will be required to take 2 weeks off of work. And it sucks, but
it is
hopefully you have enough vacation time planned because it's going to be a thing. I'm just kidding. That's not going to be a thing. But I love a couple of these comments. Proctees called it Asmon Guild. So there we go. We now have a new term to use, and I think that's absolutely freaking hilarious. And Gruntag says if Asmon Guild is the patron guild of a node, monster events all the time is okay with me. So that's what I think this system's going to be. Like, there is a good amount of information about the system, but this is going to be one of the things, hopefully, that we get to test in Alpha 2.
Yeah, I agree. I imagine it will be. You know, with Alpha 2 running as long as it is going to run, at some point, I imagine that system is going to get tested. Everything's going to get tested. You know, I mean, well, I say that like a blanket statement. I don't know that for sure, but I imagine everything will, you know, so.
Yeah. If it's a feature, we'll definitely test it.
Yeah. Is there anything particularly about the monster system itself that you feel like, you know, like really draws you to it, that interests you?
I think just because it's something that's different, you know, and there was a system like this that was kind of similar in New World, and I forget what the name of it was, but it was, do you remember what the name of it was, where they would spawn a bunch of NPCs that you would have to defend your territory from?
Invasion?
Kind of a live event. Invasion, that's it. It was Invasions, I think. And you'd have to basically ward off, and it was all like built into the lore and stuff, and it was kind of cool, but you would have to defend a bunch of NPCs. You have to defend from a bunch of NPCs that were coming in to attack your node. Now, the difference is that as a player, you couldn't control some of these. That part reminds me of Lord of the Rings Online, which that was their PvP. You basically play as a monster, and that system was a bag of a bunch of mashed up buttholes, but still okay. That's for you, Sonny. There's the first one.
That's such a visual.
When the cat's away, the mice will play. But I mean, I don't know. Is there anything about the system that in particular that interests you?
I think from a political standpoint, if we know we have an enemy on the map, you know, like let's just talk like guild shop for a minute. So let's say we have someone that's, you know, a different node, someone that we know we're competing against, and something like that pops up. A message goes out to all our people. Monster event's coming. We want everyone there to do one thing: destroy their city. I think the impact of this is less. I mean, yes, I don't want to take away from the event, right, and the severity of what could happen to that node during that time. But I think the impact of this is almost more on the political side of things than possibly the node side, because people will know who was here, who just tried to do that, you know, like that. Then it's like, what's that retaliation look like?
Yep, keep them there. Keep him there. Yeah. Yeah. like the old Goodfellas thing when guys in the bar just talking crap.
Yeah.
He's like, keep him there.
Yes.
We're on our way.
Oh my gosh. Yes. Nice pull. Yeah. Yep.
I
wonder if that's something.
I think what's gonna be interesting, like this will be another tab in the spreadsheet, right? Who currently holds monster coins? Oh. So when something like this happens, it's going to be a call to those folks. Remember, again, this is going to be the call that you're going to get during your business meeting. We know you're on the list. We know you have a monster coin. There's an event going down. I don't care about your job. Get your butt home. It's super important. So you activate that monster coin and away we go.
You know what may be fun is for the guildies, and sorry, this is kind of more like a guildie chat for a hot second, but putting that thing in Discord where they can react to it, and it gives them a monster coin roll, and we can ping that roll to those people who chose to have that while they have a coin. So when something goes off, we just ping that, and then everyone has it, and they can just join us.
Yep. It pings them. That's good. See, very smart. Very good thinking. So going on with this here, do you feel like there's any real benefit, or on the flip side, any real detriment to the system?
I think the only thing that concerns me about the system in general is that the impact will be lessened because it will have happened so often that it just feels like, too much of a good thing is a bad thing. And I think that's the only thing that really stands out to me on this system. It's honestly something that really doesn't get talked about very often at all. Like, I went to the Monster Coin system because I had to review on it because I haven't heard anything about this in a long time. I forgot it was a system in the game, which is probably accurate because we'll probably forget more than we'll remember because of how much depth there is in this game. But, and so I was watching videos, and they had the pre-alpha video up that they had made during the Kickstarter era. And I'm just like, you know what? This looks fun. I feel like there's potential there. And so I think for me, it's just like keeping this isn't the right word, but I don't think it is a word, but sacredity? No. Keeping it sacred.
Oh God, we're doing words.
Phrasing. But, I think for me, it's just, you don't want to lose that. You don't want to lose that feel like this means something.
Yeah, I think when it comes to benefits and detriments of the system, it really depends on what side of the fence you're on. Like, are you having to defend from it, or are you the aggressor in it, actually like redeeming your coins and playing the monsters? And I'll take one example. I'll just throw one example out at you. So say the predicate for this is that you have finally constructed your tier 5 artisan building, right? Where this is the only place that you can make tier 5 stuff. And that just happens to be the predicate that launches this monster event. So if you're having to defend that building, because that building could very well be the objective of the monsters, of this horde, is to destroy your building. And if that building gets destroyed, that's a significant amount of work that's going to have to go back into rebuilding that building. So it slows your node progress, for one. Obviously, your production of the things that you're able to make is going to suffer. The prices of a lot of items that you're producing could be affected, right? You might have customers that were waiting for that stuff, and now they have to wait to get stuff re-leveled again and get that building rebuilt. So the economy in the zone is definitely going to be affected. So that's a benefit to people who are attacking and don't want that production to take place, and it's a detriment to the people who are defending if they lose it. So yeah, it depends on which side of the coin, pun intended, you're on.
Let me ask you this. So let's say that happens. An item that could only be made with a tier 5, workbench was made, something you don't need. Are you going to sell it on the market for a way higher cost? Are you going to do it?
Yeah, that's a question for capital. I'm the explorer that went out with my band of adventurers and got the materials for said thing to bring back, or scouted it out and told capital where those materials are located, so that those folks can go out and get those materials.
Okay.
But yeah, I'm totally going to sell for more money.
Yeah, absolutely.
Lower
Right.
money.
I mean,
Yeah.
money's money, bro. All
Gold
right.
is gold.
Yeah, it's no kidding. Okay, good question, Roke. So the next one's from Heather. It says, quote, a single-digit percentage of the population will be capable of defeating certain content. This was discussed, end quote. This was discussed on a live stream and on the wiki. How do we feel about this? And also, Kash, how do we want to see rating progress long-term for the game? Progress. I'm sorry, not progress. That's you. That you can talk. You can jump in.
Yeah.
Anytime.
Yeah, you froze. You froze for a second here.
I did?
Yeah. So I completely lost you for a minute, but it looks like you're back.
Welcome
You're
back.
Still up. All right. Goblins chewing on our cords. Okay. So my thought with this single-digit percentage of the population being able to defeat certain content, I don't think that's really any different than the more difficult tiers of raid bosses in any other MMO. So I think that's pretty status quo, especially when you have certain bosses that are going to be like higher level that are going to be more difficult, and you're going to have easier bosses. I fully expect Tumok and the Riverlands to be very difficult in the first few weeks of gameplay because we're all going to be low, right? We're all going to be low. But by the time we start progressing further into Vera, discovering bigger, better things, that I would expect that difficulty of raid bosses is going to go up, and that only the most prepared are going to be the ones to be able to take those bosses down. So, I think the bigger question here is the second part of this is how do we want to see rating progress for the long term in the game?
Okay. Well, I'll answer that, but I want to answer the first part.
Oh, sorry about that. I just kind of skipped right over that part, didn't I?
That's okay. It's been a while.
bad.
You know, we're a little rusty with just a two-man show it's been a while.
Yeah. Yeah, we're nailing it.
I miss him. I miss him.
I totally miss him.
I miss him. It's so weird because like for years it was you and I, right? And we did our thing and everything, you know. And then we added Sonny to the mix, and he has grown such a following and fandom amongst the people. It's fun to watch. It's like watching Sonny's Diner in circa 2011 on SWTOR, me listening to it and knowing he has a fan base. Like it's just that all over again, and it's our peeps here. And yeah, chat says it. You miss his musk. Yeah, I do, Sonny. I do.
Funny thing is, 10 minutes before we started the show, he called us from a balcony in freaking Narnia.
Yeah.
It was absolutely this beautiful, like remote location. And he's like on a second or third floor balcony with his family. He's just got this Narnia in front of him. It's just gorgeous. He went whitewater rafting, if you guys didn't know. But anyway, like it was 5 minutes of a conversation about us going, we miss you, man. I miss you guys. What? How long are you there for? Come back,
baby, come back. All right, so a single-digit percentage of the population will be capable of defeating certain content. I like this. I like this because this brings achievement back to the MMO conversation. And with me, achievement breeds investment. And so when I know that there is, for me, an achievement is it's a big driver for me as a gamer, as a player. Whether it's a piece of transmog or a title or an armor set or an item. Like those things is a big driver for me. And I think, honestly, if all MMO players, and I say all, whether they know it or not, I think they are achievement based as well. Because how often, even people who care about nothing but just pure combat, I can't wait till I get to level 10. That's an achievement. I can't wait till I get that item. That's an achievement. So like when you have achievement like that built into the game, it brings that investment. It makes me invest myself more into this game, more into the experience I'm having. And even if I know I may not be a part of that 8% of people who down that one boss that spawned at that one time for that brief moment in history on our server, I know that if that ever comes around again, that is something I can push for. and hopefully complete. And if I don't, it's the fact of knowing that that is there. And if I want to push for that thing, it's what drives me. Like, and I love that. I love that mentality of just having a large swath of achievement choice.
Yeah, I think you hit on something pretty good there, because that's the way we play games. And you know I've played games together for years, and a lot of times like we'll hop on voice chat and it'll be like, hey, like, what are you working on tonight, dude? Let's go run such and such a dungeon. I'm looking for this piece of transmog. And yeah, we're talking about World of Warcraft here, and that would be what we would focus on, and then we would continue doing those old school raids for weeks until we got the drops we wanted. So I think you're right. Every player out there has something that they're working on, and whether it's an actual like achievement in the game, like you're going to get bells and whistles when you finally achieve it, or it's just defeating a boss or picking up a certain piece of equipment that you've wanted for your transmog sets. They're all still achievements. So you're absolutely right. You completely nailed it right there. So now let's progress to the second part of the question. In regards to rating progress, how do you feel you want to see that progress in the long term for Ashes?
Oh gosh, that's such a loaded question. Like, there's so many options. Like, do you want to have it in seasons? Do you want to have it like, what do you want? Like, where's your head at with it?
I mean, I want to see progression. I still think progression would be good. Like new bosses added to certain areas, I think, that have a little bit harder difficulty level as players progress. But that's going to be an ebb and flow. Like, they're going to have to watch and really monitor the way that people are progressing, because it's, especially right off the bat, it's going to be different for Ashes of Creation than it's going to be 5 years down the line when a majority of people are max level, right? Like, look at the way World of Warcraft does it now, when a majority of the people who are settled into the game are all max level. They all have max gear. They're all looking for a higher challenge. Well, you can't have base level raid bosses stay at that level forever when everybody has progressed with gear. And like, yeah, fully understand that there's no gear score in Ashes of Creation. Thank God for that. But there still needs to be some level of progression as people get more powerful and as they delve deeper into exploration and they discover new things. There's going to have to be new resources that are put into the game. There's going to be new gear sets that you can acquire that are probably going to have just that 0.5% a little bit stronger. Well, it's going to have to move up in the same chunks with the bosses and the things that you are running into as a player in certain areas. As you progress, they need to progress, right? So is the boss going to scale to the group's level of experience and gear? Or maybe there's different algorithms with different mechanics that change based upon your group makeup or your level. So in some way, and I don't know how they're going to do this, they're going to have to progress it to where it's still a challenge for people once they're at max level.
I can't help but feel like they've probably addressed that somewhere, right? Like, that, of everything that's in the wiki, maybe that's something to look at afterward. But yeah, like, you bring up a good point. Like, there's going to be people who, I mean, when it comes down to that 0.5% DPS, I mean, you talk to any raid member, especially when you're trying to push content, and let's say it's that single digit percentage of population kind of content. Yeah, like, that 0.5% is going to mean everything, right? So yeah, I look forward to seeing how they progress the raids. I think that's, one thing I am a fan of, though, I will say this: hard modes. Anytime you inject a hard mode, I am there. That is, I will say, dude, when we were in ESO and we were doing hard modes with our guildies, that moment when you wiped and you wiped and you wiped and then you finally beat that boss, I mean, that was...
Dude, I'm going to throw this out there. I forget what it was. I was going for a certain personality that you got with the achievement for killing the last boss I don't. Katie will probably remember the worm cult personality or whatever. But yeah, Vet Maelstrom was another one. Just that was a solo dungeon that you would have to go in, a solo arena that you'd have to go into. Very, very difficult. The Worm Wizard personality was the one, Katie's saying that I tried to get. I worked on that with a very dedicated group of people, very high level folks, doing that particular dungeon on hard mode for 8 hours. We got our asses handed to us for 8 hours. And like, it was almost midnight, and we finally got the mechanics down, figured it out, and killed this boss, and I got the personality. But let me restate, 8 hours on the same boss over and over, and we had to swap people out and all kinds of stuff. But that to me was like a pinnacle moment, right? And it was a very, very important achievement to me to be able to get that. And they all hung in there with me, and it was super cool to be able to actually get that. Maybe it was Vet Scale Color, I'm not sure, which I don't remember anymore. But there was an interesting quote in here from Nomad Tam. I don't see why raising player level is necessary. Couldn't they just make newer, harder bosses for the same level cap? Yeah. So and that does make sense, because I never did like the raising the level cap on players. But the one thing that I don't want to see, the way that I don't want to see that system go, is the way that Guild Wars 2 did. And some people like it, some people don't. It was very convenient, but this is how it works in Guild Wars 2. You get the highest gear set for your character, and that's it. You don't ever have to do it again. That gear set will live forever, and it will always be one of the highest that you can get. That's it. So it makes it a very easily drop in, drop out game. You can leave the game for 6 months and come back, and your gear sets are still going to be the best gear sets in the game. And I think to a certain point that gets kind of boring after a while, because it's definitely different than the mouse wheel that World of Warcraft has going on, but maybe something in between, where maybe it's your augments that get better, or maybe it's, the ability to increase your gear through maybe some new materials that become available at higher levels. Or the most beautiful thing is the fact that crafting system is going to be modeled after Star Wars Galaxy's crafting system. And that crafting system in Star Wars Galaxies was very much predicated on the best materials you could find. So if you go out there and find some resource node that is way better than it has way better materials than you use to build your current gear set, you could rebuild that entire gear set with these better materials, and that would make you a little bit more powerful. So I don't know. This is a really difficult thing. This is one of those other things that a development company is going to have to balance. And I'm really interested to maybe dive a little bit more into this one and see actually how they plan to do end game stuff. How they plan to progress.
Yeah. I mean, especially in a game where crafted gear is the most powerful, that's very different from the norm, the retail market right now, that modern simplistic market, than what this is going to be. You want to take the next one?
Yeah. Let's move on to the next one. But big thank you to Heather. That was a really, really good question.
Yeah, it was.
So the next one is from Wookie, and this one's a very, very interesting one. Because it's going to spark some good conversation. So Wookie says, recent interview by Nice Gaming and Black Sails, which is Guild, says that PvEers are in for it. The PvP community will shock you with their constant drive for PvP content and unique tactics. Most MMOs separate PvE and PvP with instanced or dedicated PvP zones, etc. Ashes being very unique, tying together PvE and PvP, making it PvX. Do you think non-PvP focused guilds, this is a very big question, so everybody consider this. Do you think the non-PvP focused guilds will be prepared for these ruthless PvP communities, as Black Sails puts it?
Well, it's a PvX game, right? So when they married Ashes to a PvX, you knew kind of what you were getting when you were, to an extent, you kind of probably had an idea of what you were getting when you were stepping into the game. Do I think it's going to shock some folks? I'm sure it will. But I will also say this. There is not, I mean, this is coming from a PvPer. There's going to be some ruthless PvP guilds, right? And by the way, I love the name of this guild. I love the fact it's a PvP pirate guild. I love it. I love that. I would love to watch them fight. I'd love to see their tactics and see what they do. I love that. Do I think it's going to shock some people? I think the entire game is going to probably shock people. When you're in there and you're playing and you're seeing some of the things that may be required of you to do things or to achieve things, or like what do I need to do X, Y, Z? This whole game is probably going to be a shock. Now, when you talk about PvP, look, it's going to bring back those old school days of open world PvP. You're going to see that come back in a healthy way. That has not been in a healthy state, I do not believe, in a big way, in probably 20 years. It's been a while. That may be a little much. Maybe 15 years. It's been a while since there was good, healthy PvP in an MMO and built in a way that the game supports it. And thus, because it supports it, it's going to keep that drive going. So, do I think non-PvP focused guilds will be prepared for these ruthless PvP communities? I mean, if they're not, they can call on those of us who are PvPers, and we will happily get involved.
Said like a true lover of PvP, for sure. I really believe that this game, there's going to be a lot of people that come into this game that don't necessarily know, or maybe they just haven't done enough research to know that this is a PvP focused game. It's called PvX, but it's just because they have a good blend of both. But PvE builds the world, PvP changes the world.
Correct.
That is what's going to be happening in Ashes of Creation. So I think that if you're coming into this game, and if this is the first time that you've heard of this game, you have to be ready for PvP in the game. You're going to have plenty of moments of peaceful PvE bliss where you are going to be able to go out and pick flowers and kick rocks down the road and pick your nose, do whatever you want to do, and you're not going to be touched. But there will be moments where you're going to see a silhouette over the horizon or two, and you're going to have that holy crap moment. Like, what are these players' intentions? I don't recognize their names. And why are they red? Why are they showing up red? You're going to have plenty of those moments. They're going to be there. And that's your ticket. If you're full PvE, that is going to be your ticket to either run, drop into camo, or drop into true stealth if you happen to be one of those two classes. But you have to be ready to at least experience that PvP is going to come your way. It is going to. It will undoubtedly be an issue, and some players are just not going to care whether or not you want to PvP. You're in this. You are now being attacked. Your node will be attacked. If you have a node that is progressing, or if you have a node that's not progressing, if you're tied to a node, it will be attacked at some point in this game. It's part of the game. It's part of risk versus reward. And it's something that I think the folks who stay in this game are just going to get used to. It is definitely going to drive some people away, because there will undoubtedly be griefers out there that do not care. All they want to do is fight, and they don't care if they're red. They don't care if NPCs won't talk to them. They don't care if they're hunted. They are going to play the game the way that they want to play the game, and it is just going to happen. So what I will say is, if you plan on playing Ashes of Creation, this is coming from mostly a PvEer. I do like to PvP, but my passion lies in PvE. You just have to know what you're getting into with Ashes.
Yeah, I agree, and I like the fact that you brought in the importance of PvE into the game. You know, and like that's going to be a major factor, and that's something I personally look forward to seeing the entirety of the game, both sides of it, PvE and PvP, and how those marry together. And how it's really this game specifically is really going to require community involvement with you, with some other player. Maybe they are PvEers and like that's their main gameplay loop is crafting, or, you know, and they really could care less about combat. I get that 100%. That is one of the chillest, most fun things to do. Just sit and craft and just live in the city and just RP or whatever, talk with people, build a boat in this game, like go out and fish. I mean, hello, that sounds amazing, right?
That's my boat.
That's my boat. And so I get that, you know, and that'll be when they can really call on those people like, hey, and that's, again, community, risk versus reward. You want to invest into somebody. We want to hire you to do X, Y, Z, you know, so it just builds community. And I don't see any PvP guild running the server. I'll say that. Not at all. You have to have, because the way the game is built, it really requires a marriage of both, you know, and you said it exactly what Steven has said as well. PvE builds the world. PvP, what is it? Changes. Thank you. And so that's how, you know, and it's true. So yeah.
You don't see Asmonguild just completely decimating a node, a server.
Not a server. No. No.
I mean, I guess that's where alliances come in, right? And I love the fact that you brought the community aspect into it, because when all of those things are clicking correctly, right? And just like look at the way that we have structured our guild. We have specialties, right? You pick your specialty and you kind of go there, but everybody comes together as a guild when these things happen. And I fully intend, if somebody puts a call out that says, hey, I'm getting camped, I'm getting ganked over and over again in, you know, XYZ sector, I fully intend to have a large contingent of people drop your hammers, drop your flowers, and get there. And when that happens over and over again, and these knucklehead griefers come in and they're in your node territory and they're doing that, it's going to be a certain amount of time before they get tired of getting ganked themselves. They're just going to go pick another node, or they're going to bring their guildies and say, we have a lot of potential for some really good fights here. So there's a lot of variables that I think go into something like this, especially with the way that I think some people are going to be. There's going to be nodes that are going to want to work with each other, have alliances to kind of protect a certain area. And then there's going to be those guilds that want nothing to do with getting along with others. They just want to kill. So you got to be ready for it. You have to have contingency plans for it. You have to expect that is going to happen, because that's part of the game. And it's a feature. So I'm kind of excited about the whole thing, because I've had those moments where you have people come over the horizon and you're just like, oh fudge, run or fight.
Yeah. Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I mean, speaking from the standpoint of Warcraft, when you hear that stealth kick off and you know you're a mage and there is no ally around you, you pucker up a little bit. Like, here we go. Say win.
What do mages do in Warcraft? They just start blasting their AoE.
Oh, dude, that's me. Arcane blast. Just looking around.
Or as a hunter, you just start launching flares on cooldown, just like boom.
Oh man, rogues, the ultimate anxiety for players everywhere.
Yeah, it's funny you should mention rogues, because I'm putting together a video on rogues right meow.
Yeah, buddy. I'm excited about this. We have a new line of videos coming out, folks. happened spur of the moment in a conversation, and Sunny, like, off the cuff, just like, you should do this. And Kash and I are just like, so,
dude, tell the peeps, man. It's I love it. It's gonna be fun.
It's so excited. So for those who are here now, it'll already be out on Monday, but the first one's coming out. It is the history of the bards, and this includes real life. This includes fantasy, how it came into fantasy, how it came into gaming, and why we love them so much for Ashes of Creation. And so we're starting with the bard, and we're going through all of them. So Kash is got one finished. What one did you finish?
I finished one for the Rangers. Yep, the real life history and lore of Rangers, and I'm currently working on one for Rogues. So should be a fun little series to go through. And now, granted, we're probably not going to do 64 videos. That's a lot, man. and I hate to say it, but there's some classes that are just, there's no like real world history, like Summoner. Somebody mentioned Summoner. Like, I don't know if that was a real world class in the medieval times. So, but the ones that we can do, we're definitely going to kind of dive into it to just give you like a little bit more flavor and history of maybe where these archetypes came from in fantasy.
Can we just, like, for the tank, can we just, like, as we introduce it, just like, here were your real life tanks, and just show like a Sherman just firing, and the video just cuts like that's.
We'll show a Sherman in some field in France just on fire. We're gonna show like a really good tank. You're probably gonna need to put a Panzer in there, not a Bunsen burner. Like, that's terrible. It's terrible, but enough time has passed to where we can say that the Sherman wasn't the best tank in the world.
Oh gosh. Oh man, that's funny. All right, so Wookie, great question. Rain down. We got a couple left. Rain down in Alpha 2 on release or in the future. Is there something specific each of you are looking forward to testing, and if so, what is it and why? Kash?
So I have a couple of, I think, I don't want to say obvious because that sounds, it's not kind of how I want to put it, but there's some things that are very obvious to me that I want to test. And then there's some things that are maybe not so obvious that I want to test. The obvious ones are classes, for sure. Like I definitely want to test the classes. I don't want to burn myself out on the Ranger because that's my main, but I want to test like the Ranger Rogue because I don't know what my secondary is going to be. I definitely know my primary is going to be Ranger. I just don't know what that secondary is going to be because I want to play with augments a little bit. I want to test the Rogue. I want to test the Cleric. Past that, I wouldn't mind like dabbling with some other classes just so I don't burn myself out on my Ranger during Alpha 2, which could be a long test phase. I definitely want to test moving goods. And I think this is going to be something that collectively as a guild, we're going to be able to test, specifically moving guild via caravan, both land and waterborne. I think that's just going to be a super fun loop to play. So I'm looking forward to that. I'm really looking forward to dungeons. I want to see what the feel is with these dungeons and what it's going to feel like when another group from another area comes in and tries to take away what you're trying to do. Are they going to help? Or are they going to be a detriment to what you're trying to do? So are they waiting in the wings until you pull said boss? And then they're diving in? And so that's something that I'm really looking forward to. World bosses, like I want to find Tumok. I truly want to find Tumok, and I want to try and take Tumok down. I think that's going to be super cool. Some other obvious things I think is very populated areas with a lot of people doing a lot of things. I want to test that server stability because we got all of this amazing, this tech presentation that was absolutely amazing last week. And I want to see what that actually looks like in game. And guild tools. That is something that is very important to me to be able to test because we are going to take advantage of every little tiny thing with guild tools. The not so obvious. I really want to get in and shake it up with PvP. And I want to see how balanced the time to kill is. I want to see how fun PvP is. Am I going to be the person that is going to be able to hold my own? or am I going to be the person with 1,000 tea bags across my forehead every single time I try to get into a fight? I want to test water content. I want to see what swimming looks like, what it feels like. Is there underwater exploration? How deep can we explore in Vera? How long does it take to get from one node to the next? So like time to travel. Can I go from my node deep into some remote location and then get back to my node in a single play session? Those are the biggest things I want to test.
So the entirety of the game. Cool.
Pretty much. Yeah. Did you have anything you wanted to test, Jibbs?
Yeah, the seasons. I want to test the seasons. That's something I really want to see. I really want to see that tech, and I really want to see the fluidity of those. What's the length of time for those? I really want to test fishing. I want to see what that feels like in the game. I want to test my boat. I want to make a boat and go down the river with it. I want to see what that's...
We got 12 Jennies.
I want to test that out. And yeah, when it comes to, I agree with everything you said. I want to see those things too. I really want to see the time to kill. I want to see what it feels like from a combat standpoint, because that's going to dictate a lot of tactics when it comes to the game, as far as what you bring to the table, what you bring to the fight. I really want to test out the bard, the cleric, the tank, and the rogue. Those are kind of like my top 4. Of course, any other class, why not, right? But really those 4. And yeah, I really, again, and this may be weird, but truthfully, like the season tech for me and how that relates to the world and like what it changes, that's a big thing for me, man. Like I really want to get that nailed down. Like if there's anything that I'll be all over the forums on, granted, we'll be posting like crazy, to help support A2. But if there's anything I know for sure, I'll be like writing down everything. It'll be that.
Yeah, and that's actually an interesting point that you brought that up, because the weather systems are supposed to affect skills.
Yeah.
Supposed to make them stronger. If it's colder and you're an ice mage,
right,
it's supposed to make you mo better.
Right.
So that'd be really cool. I wonder if it's just like a really hot and dry day and you're a fire mage. I wonder if it makes anything better. I don't know. Testable.
+1 to forest fires.
+1 to forest fires. That's right. You have to put on your little Smokey the Bear hat.
There you go. Oh, yeah. So anyway, write down. Yeah, thanks so much for that question. Then finally, Floris. You want to take that one?
Yeah. So Floris, who, by the way, is working on something very special for us that we're probably going to release here in the near future. A lot of damn talent in this guild, friends.
No kidding.
Floris gives us this question. Should one-shot mechanics be a thing in Ashes of Creation? Meaning a full health tank with best in slot armor does a boss mechanic wrong and insta-dies. What do you think?
I mean, it should be punishing, right? Like you need to, like if I am fighting a large ancient dragon that has awoken from his slumber, even if I am geared to the teeth, it just so happens his teeth are about the height, my total height in length. So if I'm fighting something like that, in the very least, it needs to be punishing, I think. I'll be honest, I don't know that I'm a huge fan of instant kill mechanics, if I've ever really been. It's like maybe there's a place for them, maybe there isn't, I don't know. Ultimately, like that's a part of achievement, right? Like kind of going back to a question earlier, like getting those mechanics down so you can acquire that thing you're striving for at the end of that loop of gameplay. I don't know. I feel as though it definitely needs to be punishing, though. Definitely needs to be punishing. It needs to carry weight. I don't have an answer, but I will say this. It needs to carry weight, and I need to feel punished if I've done something wrong.
Well, here's the way I look at it. And it kind of goes right along the same lines you're talking about this massive dragon, right? You can't be standing right in in the path of this dragon's maw, and this thing's just blowtorching right in front of you and have you survive.
There you go.
Right?
Yeah.
It can't happen. And right along those same lines, if you're fighting Tumok and Tumok takes a freaking tree trunk and just slams it down on the tank shouldn't have been there. Like, I realize we're playing a fantasy game, for sure. I realize that there's a lot of things in the fantasy game world that are not like real life. I get it. But a tree trunk getting slammed down by a massive Cyclops, if you are under that thing, it should kill you. So I'm all about one-shot mechanics. I think that that it brings a little bit of fear and hesitation to fights, and the necessity for you to learn the fights. Because I'll tell you what, like, I fully learn the cues from bosses when I get killed by them. I learn them way better when I get killed by them. It forces people to learn these cues from the bosses. So I am a fan of one-shot mechanics for sure. I'm not happy about it when I'm the person on the receiving end, but you sure do learn that day, don't you?
That's right. Yeah.
That's kind of the way I look at it. So, you know, like maybe lesser bosses, maybe not, but some of the bigger bosses out in the world, especially world bosses, yeah, I'm all about one shot.
Yeah. Yeah, that makes sense. I mean, especially if you're fighting a world boss. Remember that giant dragon world boss in Guild Wars 2? The purple one?
Yup.
I totally get dying from that. That was like the boss of bosses. Like and you died if you, I mean, that, and so maybe that's another part of the question too, is like, does the boss's size or like what they are like incorporate into that decision, or you know what I mean? Like, I don't know. I feel like I'm grasping at straws here.
It certainly should.
No.
You know, if they could just find a way to kind of scale that, like, okay, so here we have a Minotaur that's pretty ripped. He doesn't look like he's had a carb in 10 years. But, you know, like his little punch, or maybe whatever his like ultimate ability is. Well, maybe that doesn't kill you, but right around the corner, there's a freaking huge dragon. Yeah, the dragon does a stomp, or the dragon does a blowtorch out of its maw. Unless that tank knows how to handle that, the tank just can't stand there and go, ooh, fire, pretty. Put your freaking shield up, dude. And I get that. You put your shield up and that tank survives that direct hit. But if you're not following through with how to respond to those mechanics, then yeah, that's just, to me, that's just MMOs, you know? It's things that are going to happen when you have larger encounters like that. There's reasons why those bosses are harder bosses, because they have mechanics like that. So yeah, I'm fully on board.
Yeah. All right. Well, hey. Oh, go ahead. You're leaning in.
Do you want to take another one?
Do we have another one?
We got a whole bunch more. We couldn't get to all of them.
Let's do one more.
For sure.
Let's do one more.
Okay.
This isn't even on our list, so this is a blind one.
So let's see here. Let's find a good one. Okay, here we go. This is from Archbeetle. How viable will it be to remain flagged as a non-combatant? Are there known downsides from opting out of PvP?
I have no idea.
I don't think you can opt out of PvP. You can run.
Yeah, I have no idea. That's a great question. I don't know. No idea. But I will say, like, if you don't want to fight, you definitely don't want to flag. I think that because doesn't that mean when they attack you that they then become corrupted at that point?
Yes, if you're attacked and you become corrupted, but I do know that the penalties are less. The penalties are less if you fight back to defend yourself.
Right.
And I vaguely remember reading that somewhere. And of course, like, I'm not like a PvP wizard. But I do vaguely remember seeing that. Maybe check and help us out if you know what the actual rules are there. But I do remember them saying if you're openly attacked, you get less of a penalty if you die if you fight back.
Which is good. Encourages But I like what Killswitch says. Make sure you have your Nikes on, and Mindhack says maximize running stat.
Yeah, right? Like plus 10 to running shoes.
Yeah.
Like sometimes you just got to go, people.
That's
you
right.
got to go.
That's right. Oh, this was good. Well, everybody, thank you so much for tuning in. This was episode 48. So you're at LoreForged, and if you enjoyed your time here with us, let us know how we're doing. Whatever podcast app you're using, many of you have been doing that, and we greatly appreciate that. And of course, all of you who comment and like and subscribe on the YouTube side of things, we see you and really appreciate all that you guys have been doing and continue to do. You can always call us 516-875-1776, and of course you can email us at loreforgedhq@gmail.com. And I would normally say at Sunny here, but he's not here, and we look forward to him returning next week. Sad face. Anyway, we had a website once. It was cool. It was called LoreForged.com, and there was a ton of articles. I missed that site, and I'll always be I'll die on that hill. But you know, you can go to LoreForged.com. That's our hub for all the things that we do for Ashes of Creation. Everything from our podcast, our YouTube videos, stream, join the Discord, all kinds of fun things. And then of course the YouTube. You can visit our YouTube channel for deep dives on lore. This brand new series that we're getting ready to start as of recording date, the 19th, so tomorrow. So it's going to be a good time. So anyway, that's youtube.com/@LoreForged. And of course, Kash's latest Varen Chef video, Dragon Eggs, came out. That was awesome. Steven commented. I love that, dude. That was so cool.
Yeah, Steven commented, and I squeed for a while. I ran around the house jazz handsing for probably a good 5 minutes after that happened. It was super awesome to see. It's little things as a content creator. You look for those little tiny moments. Yeah. And when Steven says something about a video you make, yeah, that's certainly newsworthy to us. So anyway, Steven, I know you're not listening, but thank you anyway very much for watching that video. Yeah, keep an eye out for Jibbs's video on the history of the Bards, because it is a fantastic watch. It's really, really good. I think you did a great job with it. So I'm looking forward to seeing that one live on our YouTube.
Thanks.
Friends, follow us on X. You can follow us at LoreForged HQ. You can follow us on Instagram at LoreForged HQ, which hopefully Sunny will upload some of those pictures of him whitewater rafting, because it's actually pretty damn cool. I want to say a huge happy hoots welcome to the LoreForged fam, to some new Discord members we have. Welcome to Scadlam, DA, Call Me Raven, Alunacat, K Marshy, Vic Stifler, Heather, Lawless, Max Sword, Benacier, Black Thum, Pollywags, Sir Pretzel, Durin, and Raven Rose.
I love these names.
Welcome to the Forge fam.
That's awesome. Oh, friends. Well, and don't forget Twitch. You can follow us on Twitch, twitch.tv/LoreForgedHQ, and Patreon. We certainly appreciate our patrons. You can get all of our content early and see things long before they release and see our first conversations. I still love those. I need to go back and listen to those again. The phone calls that we actually had when we were starting LoreForged, leading up to the launch of it, and we were trying to figure out what the heck we were going to do and how we were going to build this thing that is now almost a year old. So anyway, you can check that out, patreon.com/LoreForgedHQ. Folks, you are awesome. We love you. Thank you so much for push and play. You all have a great week in gaming. We'll see you next week right here on LoreForged. Take care, everybody.
Peace, love, and heart. Peace.
I love your...
He's probably watching somewhere, judging, watching,
judging.
See
you, everybody.
Safe travels, adventures.